In this video, we're breaking down that big twist in GNV Season 2. See you then, Marie. So Thomas Godolkin is Cipher. Can you believe it? Yeah, if you've been keeping up to date with our videos or even watching the show passively, then you're probably like this. Yes, we knew all along. Sadly, they've been hinting at the reveal all season, with there being lots of clues along the way throughout this video. We'll be going through them all in case there's any that you missed. Now, firstly is the character's name, and the definition of a cipher is a person of no importance, especially one who does the bidding of others, and seems to have no will of their own. Yep, that sounds just like the poor old me puppet dog. Is there an alternate version of me? No, not that dog. The one who used to work at Blockbuster. Fans of The Matrix might also link Cipher, wanting to be part of a system under the control of others. In the movie, Cipher wishes to re-enter the Matrix, where he'll basically be a puppet who can't see the strings. Cipher in Arabic also means zero or nothing, so Godolkin has found a nobody that no one will miss, and thus he's the perfect alien. Revolves around the diet of our new Dean. We see him blending what appears to be a protein shake with peanut butter and various powders, which even had chicken in it. We never actually see him eat solid food, as he also has a liquid lunch with polarity in episode 5. We even hear Kate mention in episode 7 how there's only gross blended drinks in his kitchen. These clues link up with Godolkin preparing his apple puree via Cipher in episode 5. Godolkin can only eat apple puree while he gives his drone boring food, which acts like fuel. Liquid meals were hinting that they were the same, and Godolkin may even just be resigned to this kind of meal after having it for decades. Next up, we have Godolkin's likeness being present, a lot more on the college campus. Compared to Season 1 when we saw the statues on Founders Day, we could see a brand new one for Godolkin. This was not actually there in Season 1, and shows that it's a new addition, which is made by the new Dean. Cipher was obsessed with pushing how important Godolkin was, almost like it was a personal thing to him. In hindsight, we know Godolkin was there, making sure his legacy and name were remembered. We also saw Thomas Godolkin Day, which had displays of the scientist. This laid the groundwork for episode 7's big reveal, and possibly him becoming the new Dean. One of the big air things for me as well was that it was weird casting Ethan Slater in something that was just a throwaway flashback at the start, especially as the character's importance was played up in a few ways early on, so there was the feeling he was going to return in some way and play a much bigger role down the line. It was also revealed that Kate was unable to use her powers on Cipher, or even read his mind at the time. It seemed like it was because he was so powerful, he completely counteracted her abilities. However, with the reveal that he could control people, that retroactively became a major clue. Kate could not read or control his mind as someone else was already logged in. She sees nothing as there's no thoughts due to Doug being stuck in the back seat, simply just watching. Also, if he's been under control for decades and decades, it makes sense that he'd have nothing going into his brain, or registering, because yeah, he's controlled by Godolkin. This was further hammered home after the Octagon fight, where Jordan mentioned that there was nothing in his mind except pain. The fact that the Cipher we see is just a remote drone for Godolkin was also hinted at when Marie looked at his blood. In episode 4, Marie tried to see if there was Compound V, but Cipher is seemingly just a normal human. This is weird as well, especially after all his talk about that true vote blue. So those moments combined were to tell us that things aren't as they seem. Now there's one clue that might be my favorite one out of all of them. This is the blue eyes of Godolkin. Jordan and Kay got a shock when they discovered Godolkin in the Dean's residence, in what was a split-second jump scare. Godolkin opened his eyes, which had a weird little tint to them. If you look at this in slow motion, it's almost like there's a sort of effect washing over them, like they're disconnecting or something. This bluish tint is also something that we see in episode 6, when polarity is being controlled. We can see that his right eye is slightly blue, and this might be because Godolkin is controlling polarity via someone else, which might mean that the effects aren't as heavy. Kind of watered down, so to speak. Also in that episode, we saw Cipher make polarity hit himself. However, weirdly, his hand is being waved to mimic the movement. This is something that he told Marie not to do, as the hand does nothing when using their powers. Shout out to Screen Crush for pointing that out as well. As much as that pains me to say, the eyes, though, were part of possibly the biggest hint to who Cipher really is. It's something that we also saw during the start of episode 5. There we saw the daily routine, which made it seem like Cipher was his father's caregiver. He was interrupted when Sister Sage congratulated him on becoming Guardius. New Dean. She then properly bounces on it and stares at Godolkin, which at the time seemed very, very weird looking. Back right there in front of the dad. Okay, Godolkin is staring at them with his blue eyes though, and he's seemingly into it. Might as well have just put the cook chair right there. However, in hindsight, it was our boy getting his freak on via Doug. Sage was looking at him and giving him eye contact, because he was the one she was really getting it on with. Along with this, after shouting at his body, Doug's body then just went back to what seemed like autopilot, staring forward and going through the motions. At the time, I thought that Godolkin then retreated into his own body, but had a little bit of control left to finish his rehab. Lack of pain is also another one of the biggest clues so far. Now I need to be careful about YouTube censorship here, cause them lovely lads at YouTube who we all love. They put limited ads on the IT video that we just done cause we showed a blood balloon bursting in the bathroom. Thank you, YouTube. Only took 3 weeks to make that video, and it was struck down over a 6-second clip. Thank you either way. Godolkin doesn't feel the pain that's inflicted on his drone. We saw him put a knife into his hand after Polarity stood down from wanting to kill him. It's a shocking moment, and hint that there was something more going on. In hindsight, it makes a lot of sense, and I basically saw being like, what happens when you control a character in a video game? You're able to move them around, but you personally don't feel the negative effects on the avatar. Speaking of Avatar, it's funny how similar the season is to the movie Godolkin's in a pod driving a body round. I'm blue da, ba-d da, ba-die. You can see the connections there. The pain being absent has been consistent throughout though, and we even saw Polarity attack him with kettlebells in episode 7, which he was totally unfazed by. Cipher even paid lip service to the fact that if they cut his head off, it still wouldn't end him. Speaking of pain, we also heard Jordan say that he could feel Cipher's pain when he took control of them. The fact that Cipher seemed like a normal dude, well, normal to a point, well, someone who wasn't constantly in pain, hinted that it might have been the guy in the tank, controlling everything through him. I also feel like the pain that Cipher inflicted on Godolkin made it seem like it was self-hate, rather than the actions of a quote-unquote devoted son. It just didn't make sense for Cipher to wait on him hand and foot, and do things like go and cut him flowers, only to then smash him like the like button. Another clue is how Marie was kept alive way longer than she should have been, and Project Odessa in general. In episode 5, we saw how desperate Cipher was to get Marie to level up, but if this was Homelander, she would have been killed instead of being sent to Almira. Instead, she's shown a wild amount of leniency in a franchise, when deaths can happen for the tiniest little thing. Even here in Almira, Cipher says how he wants to help her realize her powers. She isn't intended to become a weapon, but rather a force of making his life and everyone's life better. Well, Homelander used Sam and Kate to control people who threaten his rule. Cipher just wants to make the biggest medical breakthrough in history, and commit a soup call as well. In episode 6, even after Marie had escaped, he was willing to offer amnesty for her and all her friends. If she just returned to her training at the time, I thought he just wanted her to heal his father. But this was Godolkin, trying desperately to cling to his chance for rebirth. If Marie healed his body, then he no longer needed to work from the shadows. So it was being signposted and combined with all the other clues. Cipher was just a means to an end. Now they offered the clues in episode 6 as well. When the kids talked to Stan Edgar, he explained how Cipher managed to recreate all of Godolkin's work, despite it being destroyed in the same fire that we saw in episode 1. Admittedly, someone who controls someone can just enter Godolkin's dead, but it was a huge clue that Cipher was just being used as a front this whole time. Rules are explained why he has no history at Vought as mentioned earlier. Also in episode 6, Cipher mentioned how kangaroos are called in Australia when discussing his end goals. He went there as a boy, which lines up with his age. He was about 30-something in 1967, and the official government-sanctioned calls started in the 1950s. Admittedly, though, they still happen yearly, so this might be a bit of a reach. One clue, though, exists in the flashback that start the whole season. Now we mentioned how Gideon can survive the fire by possibly breathing in the chemicals in a Jay Garrick-style origin. However, going back to the intro to the season, we can see a spare syringe. Because of this, I think that he had the opportunity to quickly grab one of the syringes and make himself a soup to survive. This was a very, very early clue that showed us Godolkin would likely become a soup, but the one problem is he can't walk around, so his powers manifested as controlling drones. In this opening, we also had a lot of focus on the music as well. The song Cherish was later used when Cipher was looking after Godolkin. Now this seemed like a song choice that initially showed the son cherishing the father. However, knowing that Godolkin was about in the 60s, and choosing this song from 1966 made more sense at Elmira. We also saw Sage bring a present for Cipher. This is Samia turned out to be Annabeth. He says, "To what do we owe this pleasure?" Yes, it's just a normal phrase, but in hindsight it seemed to him that there were 3 of them in that room. Shoutouts again to Mitch God Sheridan for letting me know about that one too. Overall, when we look at the seasons and character arcs as a whole, we can use Season 1 as a sort of reflection of what happened with the Dean being bad like me. It's becoming as cursed as being the defense against the dark arts teacher. Anyway, in the first episode of Season 1, Dean Chetty was introduced via a God You promo video. Season 2 also introduced Cipher via a very similar promo. This shows us that while they're very different, they are also very alike in sort of dark reflections of each other. Now, as we learned, Chetty's family died on the plane that Homelander May failed to rescue. She then experimented on Soups to make a virus as a revenge plot. Cipher, on the other hand, was actually being controlled by Thomas Godulkin the whole time, and Godulkin via his puppet was also conducting experiments of his own. So the pair are pretty similar, but on opposite sides. One wants to wipe out Soups as they're dangerous, while the other wants to kill the weak ones to make the rest stronger. With Gen V introducing both the Deans in the same way, it's a subtle hint that the new one also has a secret going on too. As well as this, both Deans had a connection with Kate. Shady used her to control the Soups, while Cipher had her try to find Marie. He even said to Kate in episode 1, "Look, Kate, I like you, but let's never forget who controls who." Yeah, it's one you'd only pick up during a rewatch, but I thought I'd mention it as it's a pretty cool detail about control, especially with the dual controls who hiding in plain sight, or should that be sound? Anyway, that